Hello, everyone. Hope you are doing great. Super excited to be back. Welcome to the Taking It vlog. And I hope all we've been sharing has been of use to you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And just like a reminder, we are not paid by IBA or PMI or Scrum.org, just sharing our knowledge. And we are still on business analysis planning and monitoring. We've looked at plan business analysis approach. We've looked at plan stakeholder engagement. We've looked at plan BA governance. That was the last upload we made. And today we are going to look at plan business analysis information management. Yes. So the information you collect or you intend to collect, how do you intend to manage it? How do you also intend to make it accessible to your project team members or your stakeholders? Who should have access to it? What tools will you be using to do that? So we are going to look at the input, which consists of the business analysis approach, stakeholder engagement approach, and your governance. Then the elements that should be the organization of business analysis information, level of abstraction, plan, traceability and approach, plan for requirement reuse, storage and assess, requirement attribute, then the output, which is information management approach. And yes, I just ran over what we are supposed to do. And for our outline, we are going to look at the purpose, the description, the input, the element, guidelines and tools, techniques, stakeholders, and outputs. So let's jump right into it. Although I'll be navigating between these three screens just to remind us of what we've been doing or what we need to do. So plan business analysis information. Just take it as you have it on the title. What is the purpose for this? The purpose of plan business analysis information management is to develop an approach for how business analysis information will be stored and accessed. It's as simple as that. Okay, so you want to look at how you are going to store your information and at the same time how they will be accessed, because it's very important. You don't want to give access to the wrong person. You don't want to send the information to the wrong people. Okay, so going into the description, business analysis information is comprised of all the information business analyst elicits, create, compile, and disseminate in the course of performing business analysis. Let's take that again. Business analysis information. So the info, the details you have is comprised of all the information business analyst elicits. So all the information you've collected. Okay. You create the one you create maybe from let's say research online and all whatnot. You compile the one you collate and disseminate the one you share in the course of performing business analysis work. Okay, models, scope, statements, stakeholder concerns, illustration, results, requirements, designs, and solution options are just a few examples. There are so many. Could it be the scope of the project, or could it be information about stakeholders? Could it be concerns, illustration, results, and all whatnot? This includes requirements and designs, from lightweight user stories to formal requirement document to functioning prototypes. So just think about any information you be collecting at in the course of your work or course of your project. Information management entails identifying. So if when you want to manage your information, this includes identifying what and what. How information should be organized. How do you want to put your information together? The level of details at which information should be captured, to what level. Some would be like, oh, we need to capture it at a low level, then meet later on and break it down. One Some will be like, oh, let's capture this as at a low level at this point, the nitty gritties. Okay, any relationship between the information. Are there traces like, oh, okay, we captured that in this case we need a system that will give us this function. But I think that there is a relationship or there is a connection when you trace this requirement to another requirement that was done on another system. Okay, so how information may be used across multiple initiatives and throughout the enterprise. So we have the scope. How do we want to use the scope across maybe other projects that are connected to this project or other things that we are doing in this company? Okay, how information should be assessed and stored. Now, this is a very important part. How do you want to access the information? Do you want to download it from maybe SharePoint and share? Or do you want to upload it to SharePoint and give everyone access? Okay. And remember, when you are replicating or when you are reproducing document, you know that there is, if you want to pass on information or if you want to update that document, what happens? You have to update it and pass it on back to everyone at the same time. Or maybe you, when you ask people to please could you look at this document and review it, know that once they review, are you going to collect 100 documents? No. Why don't you upload it to SharePoint and give everybody the link and access to, collaborate at the same time, so that maybe you can even turn on your autocorrect so that you know what people have done, and their reviews, their inputs, and you know if you need to accept it or refuse it. Now, characteristics about the information that must be maintained. Remember that we are looking at information management entails identifying, okay? Characteristics about the information that must be maintained. So, at times when you collect information, you want to break it down, or you want to streamline it. So what can stay, what should not stay, what you want to remove. So let's move on. Information management helps ensure that the business analysis information is organized in a functional and useful manner. You don't want your information to be all over the place. It's especially accessible to appropriate personnel. So you give access to who you want access to be given to, and installed for the necessary length of time. Yes, there are some information that you are privileged to have for some time that you need to get rid of, and also there are some information that, well, they are not important. You want to archive them, after some times, okay? And there are some that are living document that you need to be, updating. Maybe it's the requirements, it's the test case, and all whatnot. Input. Now, what do you need to bring into the picture? What do you need that would inform you about how you need to plan your information management? That is business analysis approach. So, what approach are you taking here? So, if you know the approach you are taking, it will now inform you on how best to manage your information. Remember, in project you have the waterfall, you have the agile. There are different ways of information management for the two. So you need to know your business analysis approach. So incorporating the overall business analysis approach into the information management approach is necessary to ensure consistency across the approaches. Yes, if you know your approach, it will help you with being consistent on, for example, let's take for instance, you are using, let's say you're using, let's use Scrum, or that's the Agile system, and is that's your business analysis approach. And you know that in in Agile we don't really go into much details or into documentation that much, so like the level of information you need to collect, how, where you need to store it and stuff like that. And maybe Agile, you are using Jira to do your requirements or do your backlogs. Okay, so you already know where to assess or who the stakeholders involved and all whatnot. Governance approach. Remember, still just have this in mind. Oh, different types of projects. So when it comes to governance, is also different. In Agile, you have to be meeting your stakeholders, to be debriefing them, to make sure that you are inspecting and adapting, to make sure you are getting their buy-in, to make sure you're getting their approvals at every step or at every iteration on your stand-ups, your retrospectives, your reviews. So governance approach defines how business analysts manage changes to requirements and designs, how decisions and approvals for business analysis deliverables will be made, and how priorities will be set. Simple. Tells you about setting your priorities, tells you about your approvals, tells you about, okay, how requirements and how you have to manage your requirements and designs. Stakeholder engagement. You need stakeholder engagement in this case, because identifying stakeholders and understanding their communication and collaboration needs is useful in determining their specific information management needs. So when you know your stakeholders, you know how they want to be informed, how they want to be communicated, then you know how to manage the information you give them, and even the level of information they require from you. Okay. Now, let's look at this beautiful diagram. Plan, business analysis, information management, input and output diagram. So for input, remember you need to know your business analysis approach, you need to know your stakeholder engagement approach, you need your governance approach. Then for guidelines and tools that will guide you on how you go about this, you need business analysis performance assessment. What has been done, how good it was, how can it come in here, to be of use to us. Business policies, you need to know your business policies, when it comes to assessing information, because honestly, when it comes to business policies, there are some information that you shouldn't expose to some stakeholders or some team members, and you want access only to a group of people. Okay, so now, and there are ways to do stuff, so you want to keep to those policies, privacy and all whatnot. Information management tools, you have your, maybe there is a streamlined information management tool used by a particular company, and that is the one they have a license to, that is one they want to pay for. And another thing is, maybe you also have your suggestions. Well, okay, I understand you guys use this, but if we are able to bring this in, it could help us. Okay, legal or regulatory information, you can't go wrong with this. So you now have your plan, business analysis, information management, and what is the output? It is, you now have your information management approach. Then other tasks using these outputs would be your communicate business analysis information, will still get there, tracing your requirements, maintaining your requirements, define requirement architecture. So let's move on. Now, moving into the elements. So, what are the elements? What are the characteristics and stuff like that that make up, your plan, your information management? One is organization of business analysis information. Organization of business analysis information. So, business analysts are responsible, okay, for organizing business analysis information in a manner that allows for efficient access and use. Please take this as it is. So your work as a business analyst is to organize information in such a way that it will be efficient when it comes to assessing it and use. How? Please, for example, when you know that you have, let's take the most simplest one, you have your email and it is a group email, you need to organize it in such a way that whoever comes there would see what they need at the first instance. For example, you have so many projects you are managing in a team. The best thing is to put those projects in a folder. Okay, and whenever an email for a particular project comes, you just move it from that to that folder, or you can even automate it. If there is a way to do that, you automate it in such a way that this email with this subject comes for this project, it automatically moves to this, so that whenever people come, it's a clean inbox. Or your naming convention, when you have to name files, you name it in such a way that it's simple to search, and also you communicate how things should be named to your team members so that it will be accessible to them. Then if you are using something like SharePoint or Jira, ensure you give the appropriate access or license or whatever to each person. For example, your admin should have like a full license so that they'll be able to, create stores and all that on your SharePoint. Not when they are trying to use that particular SharePoint with that project, they are not able to see stuff and they keep on coming back to you. Oh, I don't have this access, I don't have that access. It doesn't make work fun. So information must be well structured to ensure it is not difficult to locate, conflicts with other information, or is needlessly duplicated. Yes, that is why in a team or in a group, have this person do this, have that person do that, know what each person is doing, okay? So that you don't duplicate effort. The business analyst determines how best to structure and organize the business analysis information at the start of the initiative. So this is why you are doing this now, so that you people have an agreement, you know how you're doing things, so that you don't duplicate effort, get everybody confused. This involves taking into consideration the type and amount of information to be collected. Don't collect too small, don't collect too much that you don't need. The stakeholders access and the users needs, just like we mentioned, and the size and complexity of the change. So when you know the size and complexity of your change, you know what to do at each point. Relationships among the types of information must be defined to assist in managing the effect of new or change information in the future. For example, on your SharePoint, try to put whatever information you need to share or you need to use in folders. For example, you have maybe the folder for your archive, you have the folder for your initiation, your completion, maybe for your finance and stuff like that. Level of abstraction. The level of abstraction describes the breadth and depth of the information being provided. Like how deep or how shallow, how whatever, like how much of information, okay, do you need or you need to provide. Representations of information may range from highly conceptual or summarized to very detailed. It's still saying the same thing. Okay. In determining how much detail each stakeholder may require as the initiative evolves, consideration is given to the needs of the stakeholders. Please have your needs of the don't bother your stakeholders with so much information. Know what they want and provide them what they want the way they want it if possible. The complexity of what is being explained and the importance of the change. Rather than present the same information to all stakeholders, have this in mind. Business analysts should present information with appropriate breadth and level of detail based on each stakeholder's role and even need. I think they should include need there. Business analysis information regarding a topic of significant importance or high level of risk is frequently represented in greater detail. For example, you can bold it, you can color it, you can put a flag against it to know that this is important. Maybe this requires attention. This is a risk level, high level of risk, and stuff like that. So telling you how to call attention to things. Plan traceability approach. That is the third element. The traceability approach is based on the complexity of the domain, the number of reviews of requirements that will be produced, any requirement related risk, organizational standards, applicable regulatory requirements, and an understanding of the costs and benefits involved with tracing. Let's take this again. Plan traceability approach. Remember what we talked about traceability. What is the connecting factor? What is the relationship between one thing and the other? So in this case, what is the relationship between one information management or one information and the other? So the traceability approach you are going to take is based on the complexity of the domain. How complex is this domain or what we are going into? Okay. The number of views of requirements that will be produced, what number of views of requirements that will be produced, any requirement. So you trace it according to that. So you trace it also according to any requirement related risk. Are there risk related to any of these requirements? Organizational standards. Is when it comes to the organizational standard, you trace it. Applicable regulatory requirements. What are the applicable regulatory requirements approach? Okay. An understanding of the costs and benefits involved in tracing. Business analysts plan to ensure the approach is at a level of detail to add value without excessive overhead. Plan for requirement reuse. So, reusing requirements can save an organization time, effort, and cost. Yes, please, this is very important. When you reuse a requirement, it will save you a lot of time, effort, and cost. For example, you have so many organization under or so many departments under and this department wants a system that will help them telemarket or a system that would help them let's say analyze user preference. Then another department also requires the same. What happens? You go and look up the requirement that was used and see how it would help you in your new project. See what you need to add, see what you need to remove, see even how it will save you money. Okay, because already you have a working system. So, provided the requirements are accessible and structured in a manner that supports their reuse. Requirements that are potential candidates for long-term use are those an organization must meet on an ongoing basis, such as regulatory requirements. Yes. For example, you are laying pipeline, and here in one state or in one province, and you intend to lay pipeline in another province, or so you come back and be okay. We laid this pipeline, and we had some regulatory bills to pay or regulatory requirements to meet. Okay, what were those? You check that and you see that, is it like compared to, maybe you can even start early to start preparing for when you have an idea of those things. Now, contractual obligations. What contractual obligations did you sign or do you need to meet? Quality standards. Oh, you are building a website that can help you navigate your way to wherever, and you need quality standards. For example, it should give you like a clear vision of the streets, the turns, maybe the road signs, and the traffic lights and stuff. And it has, when you say clear, remember, it's not just a requirement now, it has to do with standard. Okay, it has to meet this standard, it has to meet these needs and stuff. Service level agreement. Are there service level agreement? How long will it take for us to hear from you when it comes to you fixing this and all whatnot? Now, business rules. Oh, for us to say that this is done, we need this to open this portal to open. We need to see that users are able to log in and stuff like that. Business process. What is the process? What is the flow? Okay, for example, when a user has to log in, what happens from the front end to the back end? Requirements describing product the enterprise produces. Now, so we just went through requirements that are potential candidates for long-term use. Are those an organization must meet on an ongoing basis, such as regulatory requirements, contractual obligations, quality standards, service level agreement, business rules, business process, or requirements describing products the enterprise produces. So we can move on from there. Requirements may also be reused when describing common features or services that are used across multiple system processes or programs. We've touched on this, when this department wants this and that department wants that, it's going across board. Okay. To make requirements useful beyond the current change, business analysts plan ahead for requirement reuse by identifying how best to structure, store, and assess requirements so they are usable and accessible for future business analysis efforts. So, if you want to reuse requirements, start early to structure it, to store it, to assess it, to review it, to know if this is workable. Now, in order for requirements to be reused, they must be clearly named. This is a very important information you need to look at. So, for you to reuse your requirement, it must be clearly named so that people would understand it, defined, okay, given a description, a clear description, and stored in a repository that is available to other business analysts. So, you have to carry everybody along, even people that are not in your team, okay, because it may also be important to them. And there should be a repository where that is accessible to everyone. Now, storage and access. Business analysis information can be stored in many ways. Storage decisions depend on many factors such as who must access the information, how often they need to access it, and what conditions must be present for access. Okay, for access. So storage and access, telling you that whatever you want to store, you need to make a decision on it, who needs it, how often, and all whatnot. Organizational standards and tools available also influence storage and access decisions. Yes, what kind of tools do the organization use? Does the organization use? The business analysis approach defines how various tools will be used on the initiative and how the information will be captured and stored within those tools. So the business analysis approach defines how various tools will be used. Okay, some Scrum, they use like maybe Asana or Jira. This approach is defining this. Waterfall, some use SharePoint to store. There are some don't even use; they just use Excel. Tools may shape the selection of business analysis techniques, notations to be used, and the way that information is organized. The repository may need to store information other than requirements and designs. It should be able to indicate the status of any stored information and allow for modification of that over of information over time. So wherever you store your information, it should allow you to modify your information over time. Okay? So I think at this point we can go on a brief break, then come back to continue. Okay? See ya. Hello, welcome back. I hope you had some, time to stretch a little bit. And also, yes, if what we've shared so far they've been of good use to you, please subscribe, like, comment. So we're looking at plan business analysis information management. That is, how do you manage, or how do you plan to manage your information that you're going to collect? That is elicitation, requirements, and all whatnot, stakeholder information and all that. So we've looked at the purpose, we looked at description, we've looked at input, we're on the element. So just to run you through this, remember the input should be your business analysis approach, stakeholder engagement approach, your governance approach. Then elements will be organization of business analysis information. How do you organize this level of abstraction? Plan traceability approach, plan for requirement reuse, storage and access, requirement attribute. Then the output is your information management approach. So let's go back to what we were doing. Now, requirement attributes. Oh, I hope this is not too big. Let's see. Okay, so requirement attributes. Let's see here. Yeah, let me just so I hope it's better now. So requirement attributes. Requirement attributes provide information about requirements. So remember, take, just like I said, take it from the title, requirement attribute. What is attribute? Characteristics. Okay. And it tells you that requirement attribute or characteristics provide information about requirements. It lets you know more about the requirements and aid in ongoing management of the requirements throughout the change. They are planned for and determined with requirements themselves. We are still on the element. Requirement attributes allow business analysts to associate information with individual or related groups of requirements. The information documented by the attributes helps the team efficiently and effectively make trade-offs between requirements, identify stakeholders affected by potential changes, and understand the effect of a proposed change. So when you know the characteristics of your requirement, you know the trade-offs. Oh, I think this requirement is a repetition of the other requirement, or there are some characteristics we have in this requirement that exist in the other requirement. So I think we can actually maybe leave this in the parking lot or remove this entirely and take this up. Okay, so it also helps you to identify stakeholder affected by potential. Oh, this requirement, okay, I think that stakeholder asked for it. Or, oh, this requirement, we actually did something with that stakeholder, it helps you to think up stuff like this. So also it helps you to understand the effect of proposed change. And now when you want to do those trade-offs, or when you want to go into this project, it helps you to understand it better. Okay, some commonly used requirement attributes include absolute reference, provides a unique identifier. The reference is not altered or reused if the requirement is moved, changed, or deleted. This is just telling you absolute reference ID. Let me just put it that way. Also, provides the name of the person who needs to be consulted should the requirement later be found to be ambiguous, unclear, or in conflict. So, requirement goes with an identifier, tells you, okay, this person requested for this. Okay. Complexity indicates how difficult the requirement will be to implement. Ownership, who owns this requirement, indicates the individual group that needs the requirement or will be the business owner after the solution is implemented. Priority indicates relative importance of requirement. Priority can refer to the relative value of requirement or to sequence in which it will be implemented. So, for example, let me just give this an example. When it comes to an Excel sheet and you have your requirement, you have your ID, you have the author of the requirement, you have the complexity as a column. Okay, you have the who owns this, you have the priority, is it one, two, or three? Risk identifies on certain events that may impact a requirement. So when we go ahead with this requirement, what are the risks? Is it resources? Is it budget and stuff? Source identifies the origin of the requirement. The source is often consulted if the requirement changes or if more information regarding the requirement or the need that drove the requirement has to be obtained. You know who to go to if you need, further verification or validation. Stability indicates the maturity of the requirement. Status indicates the state of the requirement, whether it is proposed, accepted, verified, postponed, cancelled, or implemented. Urgency. How urgent do you need this? Indicates how soon the requirement is needed. It is usually only necessary to specify this separately from the priority when a deadline exists from implementation. Maybe it's regulatory and it is urgent. So, guidelines and tools. I hope you're enjoying what we are doing so far. So, guidelines and tools, because it's fun for me, So I hope we are all moving along. So business analysis, performance assessment. So what would guide you? What are the tools you'd require to go on to plan your information management? And the number one is business analysis performance assessment. Provides results of previous assessments that should be reviewed and incorporated into all planning approaches. What has been done before? Oh, how can it be incorporated here? Business policies define the limit within which decisions must be made. They may be described by regulations, contract agreements, warranties, certifications, or other legal obligations. Information management tools. Each organization uses some tools to store, retrieve, and share business analysis information. These may be as simple as a whiteboard or as complex as global wiki or robust requirement management tools. Legal or regulatory information, very important, describes legislative rules or regulations that must be followed and helps determine how business analysis information will be managed. Techniques. Wow. So what techniques do you need to plan this? Brainstorming, come together, let's do this. Maybe use Miro to brainstorm, use to help stakeholders uncover their business analysis information management needs. You come together, talk about it. Oh, what needs, how do we plan our business analysis management information? Who needs this? What tools can we use and stuff? Interviews, you go one-on-one to meet your MD or your executive director, to talk about this. Used to help specific stakeholders uncover their business analysis information management needs. Item tracking, used to track issues with current information management process. Lesson learned from maybe other projects. Used to create a source of information for analyzing approaches for efficiently managing business analysis information. Mind mapping, when you mind map, think about it, when used to identify and categorize the kinds of information that need to be managed. Process modeling, used to document the process or method for managing business analysis information. Survey or questionnaires, when there are too many people that you can't go to them one-on-one or even have them on the call at the same time, used to ask stakeholders to provide input into defining business analysis information management. Workshops, used to uncover business analysis information management needs in a group setting. Stakeholders, who and who do you need to consult? Who do you need to get on the table to make this happen? Domain subject matter expert, that is just me, may need to assess and work with the business analysis information and will be interested in a more specific view of business analysis information which relates to their area of expertise. Regulator, very important, may define rules and processes related to information management. This will tell you, oh, we can't have, maybe when you are dealing with products on requirements or products that are on prod, that are already live, you cannot show it to this group, or people should not have access to it. Okay, now, or maybe you can't record it in a meeting during when maybe a developer is sharing a live environment, because this is let's say this is you have people's information on that system. Okay, sponsor reviews, comments on and approves business analysis information. And what do you have at the end of the day? Information management approach includes the defined approach for how business analysis information will be stored, assessed, and utilized during the change and after the change is complete. So we have come to the end of this let's say segment. So the next would be identify business analysis performance improvement, and we will be done with business analysis planning and monitoring. And thank you so much for staying till now. Have a great day and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye.